starts it. It's not that obvious.
It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be swearing our new board member.
You guys already called the guys. You want to bring Adam up here?
Yeah.
Adam, okay.
Up here.
All right.
And we have
Adam,
Mrs.
up here,
Cox
sir.
with us.
Okay, I get to swear at you this time.
All right.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, if you could put your right hand up for me, sir.
I am Cox,
As a board member of Pettis County Ambulance
as a board member of Pettis County Ambulance
District,
District,
hereby unconditionally
hereby unconditionally
agree to support the Constitution of the United States
agree to support the Constitution
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri.
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
And I further agree to abide
and I further agree to abide
all applicable federal and state laws
all applicable federal
and regulations,
and regulation,
district ordinances, bylaws, and policies,
district ordinances and bylaws,
and to further devote sufficient
and to further devote sufficient
time and effort in the office
time and effort in the office,
so as faithfully conduct
so as faithfully conduct
myself in the office with undivided
myself in the office undivided
loyalty to the district.
loyalty to the district.
Congratulations, Adam. Congratulations, You're in the office and you can take this with you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You all just made a copy for our records, I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay. Okay, then all you guys lay on.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate your understanding.
No, hey, sorry, congratulations. No, thank you so much, guys. Okay, guys, thank you. No, not at all. Thank you, guys. Hey, guys, good seeing you all. Good seeing you. Adam, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Cox,
Here.
Britt,
Here.
Turkey,
Here.
Meehan,
Here.
Hale,
Here.
Next item will be motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Do we have a second? Second.
Mr. Chairman, I asked or would ask at this point in time that we put an additional agenda item in regards to Robert's Rule of Order and Sunshine Laws.
For this purpose.
Just for discussion.
That can be down at the end of unfinished business.
And whether, unless maybe this has been updated or something, but we have annual mowing bids way at the bottom.
Yeah.
Since we have one of those folks here, would we consider moving that up a little bit up in the agenda?
We can move that up to item A under unfinished business. Since there was an addition to the agenda,
amend my motion with those additions and corrections.
do we have a second to that?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. from previous meetings minutes, everybody's had a chance to look over them. Was there any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, Secretary, if I could. See, I guess it's item 3, reports of officers. Item B, CFO report. At that time, I asked and confirmed with the CFO that the winter ambulance district payment had not been received as required by the contract and agreement. And I asked this issue be placed on the next meeting in June. And to the minutes, please.
Were there any other additions or corrections? The standard as presented with that correction. Was there any public comment? If we have none, we will move on to the chief's report.
Okay, good evening, gentlemen, and welcome, Mr. Cox. Congratulations. Good to have you aboard. I trust everybody's got my report in front of them. It's been a pretty busy week. I've been hanging out in the alley along with Mr. Newsom, whom I first want to give a great big thanks to. Ryan has been helping me out back as we took out all of those remaining windows out there. There were 5 of them this week that we've pulled out of that north wall. So keep in mind, he's covered in glass powder and dust right now. So you might want to steer clear of him if you can. And of course, some other folks around the shop helped as well. So as far as any operational changes, everything's been going great. No big issues to report. We are in need of some service to our stair chairs. However, pretty much just standard stuff. No big damages or problems with them. Just some general maintenance stuff. We're waiting on some information on a MSAR, who is a repair company who specializes in those. We haven't got any info back on them yet, but I don't expect that to be any major costs. The DVR systems in the unit, so I don't have any updates on that at this time. As per the last board meeting, we did have to replace one GPS unit. It served us well. I believe it was a Garmin. I think it was in service for, I want to say 7 years, pretty much from the beginning. So we definitely got a good life out of it, but we did have to replace it recently. The unit mileage has been updated. This is as of the end of February per WEX. I'm sorry, was there a question or anybody? I've just caught some noise there. This is per WEX, the latest mileages, so you can see the increases since last time. The let's see, unit 8, that kind of printed a little odd, but all of that note over in that right column is in regards to unit 8, just in case that's not clear. That's all been taken care of though via insurance. It was just missed in the first assessment. No accidents, no work comp injuries. And again, I failed to mention Mr. Fritz. Thank you also, sir, for coming over and helping this afternoon on those windows. That was a big job. On page 6, building and grounds, like I said, we've been doing that. Otherwise, no big projects there. Besides the masonry work, they've blocked up 3 of those windows today, and they will be doing the remaining 2 tomorrow. Those are the westernmost windows on that north wall of the station. So they'll be blocked up tomorrow, and they're secured for the evening tonight. So no problems there. No residual issues, or no issues as far as utilities or neighborhood issues going on as well. Moving on down, I don't have really any other special projects to report. Per our Pettis County Health Center, we're getting, I think, close to around 16%. I don't want to take her numbers from her. That was in the Nixle report that everybody got, but we're doing really well as far as immunizations go in the counties. And of course, our crews are still standing by at Bothwell's events out at the Mowing Center at the fairgrounds. So no big problems out there as well. They're out there today. They were out there today, and they'll be out there tomorrow as well. Right now, we are finalizing some dispatch protocols with Pettis County Joint Communications. Roy's been on that committee, so he's been working diligently to get all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, doing a great job with that, moving right along. Education, I did complete the MAA board member training last week. It was very good. It was a virtual session, but it went very well. Of course, very informative as always. And I did send out some information to the board via email regarding the next virtual training, the dates on that and the availability of that. So that it will be after the election. So any new board members that we may have, we'll be able to get into that one. And I went ahead and kind of reserved some spots tentatively for others who may want to get in there. Other than that, we taught some 12 lead classes, or rather I taught some 12 lead classes last month. Those are EKG classes that I've been teaching for about 20 years now. And we do those annually. We did them 3 times last month for each shift and had a great attendance for all days. I still need a reserve price for Unit 7. We need to do something with that unit. It's out in the easternmost bay. I don't know if I can request that be put on the next agenda or what, but we do need some sort of reserve price so that we can get that thing listed and get it moved out of the bay, because it's just sitting there. We've pretty much pillaged everything we possibly can off of it. So it's just taking up space at this point. As far as personnel, I don't have anything to report. We've actually got one of them back today, but we've had 2 employees out recently for short-term non-work related illnesses. So no big problems on FMLA either. No promotions or demotions. And as far as resignations and terminations, we're no change there as well. So without any questions, that is the end of my report. However, I just skipped right past the call volume there. On the next page, you'll see the call volume for February. I don't know if there was any questions there. Kind of par. I believe I did not put last year's in there, but we're pretty much on track with where we were. We had a big month in January, and of course, February is a short month, so there's a few less calls to be expected rather. So no big surprises. Only 1 flight last month. We've already had 3 flights this month. It's been we're already getting in trauma season. And I think actually Dr. Gus might have a trauma patient he wants to talk about in his report as well. But yeah, definitely stepping into the spring, we're going to see a lot more car wrecks and hopefully nothing too serious, but we're here and everything's going great. So barring any questions, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Chief.
Are there any questions for Eric?
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll move on to the CFO report.
Good evening. My report starts on page 9. I did want to point you guys to pages 21 through 30. This is the slides from the FRA 101 review that Missouri Ambulance Association put on at the end of February. Just in case you guys weren't able to attend those, they were both during the day, so I know people have other things to do. There's all the information that they presented. The FRA is how we get paid for Medicaid. Our Medicaid goes through MOMSAC, and this gives the whole reasoning why that happens. That's to get the federal reimbursement allowance, which increases the amount we get for Medicaid. So it's basically a 60-40 match for Medicaid to pull more federal funds into Missouri. And on page, page 9, they give the total FRA for EMS since this one was in inception, which was in 2009. So it's been $26 million that this has brought to EMS. So, and they said that every ambulance district in the state participates except for 1. So just some information on that. It was very informative. They also told us that we'll be receiving retroactively $45 per transport to January 1st, I believe. And that's about $8,100. I had the billing company pull a report and it'll be about $8,100. So if you'll go back to page 9, there's the bank balances as of last Thursday versus the last meeting, up about 117,000. And then down below, it's got the year over year up about 794,000, as well as the cash reserve chart. Anybody have any questions on that? Page 10 is just the cash reserve analysis. Again, up just slightly, about 9 days or so versus last meeting. Pages 11 and 12 are the check register. And if you will look about halfway down on page 11 on 224, there's that deposit from Windsor, 238,888.01. Anybody have any other questions on the check register?
Jamie, is that additional check I brought up from Windsor in this one as well?
No, because we just got that yesterday. So this
Oh,
one,
okay,
that's
okay, okay. All right, thank you.
we did receive another 24,954.01 yesterday from Windsor. Any other questions? If not, page 13 is the AP aging summary. And 14 through 16 are the bill details. Anybody have any questions on any of those bills?
Chairman, I do.
Yes.
Page 15, Randall's Auto Collision, almost $7,000 deer strike. Is that covered by insurance?
Yes, yes. So it's been reimbursed except for about $768, which they said they would be sending us a check. That was Friday, I believe.
So was there a deductible on that, or they just paid the full amount, or how did that work?
We have a $500 deductible.
Okay, so they paid it all, or will pay it all minus the $500. Okay.
Yeah, so the repairs plus the towing. So we had two different tow bills with that as well.
Okay. And on page 16, the next page there, it says Truman Lake Towing.
Yes, that's a separate incident, but that invoice got sent to insurance is why it took so long to get back to us, so.
Okay, and so this says a weather situation.
Yes.
Where was the, and maybe this is a question for you, Chief, or Roy, where was the vehicle at that it needed to be towed by this Truman Lake Towing?
Roy, I'll let you take that. I can tell you it was not, I believe that was one of the transits, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, at
Yeah.
a fault. But they got down a long driveway, got stuck, and they were trying to get out. It was bad enough the tow truck that came out to get him out, got stuck as well. And so another truck got to get both. So
Where was the unit towed from? Where was this at?
we wasn't towed anywhere. It was out by Calhoun. Yeah.
And, okay. Calhoun's on the other side of Warrensburg.
No, it's out.
On the other side.
Did you say that to yourself as well for yesterday?
I believe that was involved in a lot of that, the snow and ice we had, and I think that just slipped off the edge of a driveway pretty much. Yeah, I don't think there was any major damage or anything.
No, yeah, it's just winching out of the ditch. Any other questions? The credit card statement is on pages 17 through 19. Did anybody have any questions on any of those charges? Yeah, that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Jamie.
Welcome.
If I can jump right in there, I did forget to mention one thing. Jamie, I think she caught more of it than I did, but there was also an update on Medicare today. I don't know if Jamie has anything to report on that, but a lot of good information on updates on Medicare reimbursements and so forth. And also I'm attending virtually tonight in case no one knew. I have some training scheduled here in just a little bit, so I'll be checking out a little bit early. But that's it. Sorry for the interruption there, Jamie.
Are there any other questions for Jamie? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the payment of the outstanding bill.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Medical Director's Report.
All right, good evening. I checked with Ms. Louder at the Communication Center, and in addition to what Chief had mentioned, all of the operators are now EMD certified, and their official certification is pending, but they all have gone through the training, and they all have gone through the CPR training for dispatch assisted CPR. Everything is on track. All of our operational definitions and other requirements related to dispatch are in line with the national certifying body. And so it's just a matter of time, just getting things in place so that we can come up online here in the near future. Also, as Chief mentioned, we had an incident that I wanted to share with you folks, just to kind of let you know the kinds of things that our folks have to deal with. We had a lady that was in her 70s who fell down some stairs, which is not a rather uncommon accident. She was alert and oriented and was talking and was sitting in a chair when they got there. The family had picked her up off the floor and put her in a chair. And then they loaded her up. They put a C-collar on her and put her in the ambulance and took her to a local facility. I would prefer not to divulge anything more than that because I don't want to violate any privacy or HIPAA information. At the local facility, her workup revealed that she had a brain bleed from this fall. She had a fracture of the top two vertebrae in her neck, multiple facial fractures, and including a nasal bone fracture and a T4 thoracic fracture, middle of her, upper mid back area. And I just want to reinforce that the medic did everything appropriately. Based on her vital signs and her presentation, there was no way that he could have known she was this badly injured. Everything that he did for her was appropriate, and taking her to the facility that we took her to was appropriate. It was just mind-boggling that she was so badly injured just from a simple fall down a few stairs. Again, I cannot praise our folks enough for the job they do in looking out for the interests of our folks here in the Pettis County Ambulance District area. It's just, it's reassuring to me to know that our folks are doing the job that they're supposed to do, and are taking care of the folks the way they're supposed to. And I think we're very blessed with the personnel that we have. Everything else in terms of what's going on with the reviews and everything is in line. And unless any of you have any questions for me, that's about all I have for the night.
Thank you, Doc.
Are there any
Okay.
questions?
And I too also have another meeting pending, so I will be leaving here in a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business and annual mowing bid. We've got 2 bids. First one is from grass kicking. This one, see what it is. I'll give it W-9 and his certificate of liability insurance. Or whatever it is. Mowing quote for property at West 16th is $270. And the mowing quote for property at Highway TT is $130. From Greg Weirman. This proposal is for 3 years. The 16th Street property, $125 each mowing. And Highway TT, $125 each mowing as well. So they would adhere to the schedule as previously discussed. This quote says the typical mowing will be every 6 to 8 days, depending on the weather. That does not indicate that it's more than 1 week. So, do we have any questions for Mr. Weirman since he's available?
Well, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification here on the grass kicking, that's $270 per cut, is that correct?
That's, yes. That's
Okay.
the impression I get.
Okay,
For the 16th Street,
and then the 130 for TT.
yes.
Okay. And so, and then on Mr. Werman's bid, is that 3 years at the same price, or is there an inflation guard put on that? Maybe I could just ask Mr. Werman directly.
Right. That was, yeah, it was a 3-year bid.
3-year bid. Thank you, sir. And that.
She's one of the best large.
She does work, and it's from board, hopefully.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
Make a motion to accept low bid, Mr. Will, for you.
I would second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign.
Thank you, both.
Good assessment, the job is done. Go ahead.
Just use caution around that septic stuff out there at TT. I know there's a lot of it out there.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
We might, listening, make paint a warning or something, so we can see him easier.
Yeah. Work with it, absolutely. We'll be happy with it on that one. Absolutely.
Mr. Werman, if you need to get a hold of me, you can get my number from anybody there tonight if you ever need to get a hold of me about anything also.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
I would caution Mr. Werman too, because he might not know that the 16th Street property, we have, we're letting the company use some of that property there for sidewalk improvements on both the south side and the north side. So I don't know when they'll be digging, or, I'd just be careful of, there might be some loose gravel flying around or whatever out there, but there's some machinery that will be sitting there probably for another month or two, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Because as long as it's taking them to do the south side, it's going to take them another couple of months probably on the north side. Take care, Greg.
Bay window replacement.
Mr. Chairman, we've had a couple folks out to look at these windows, and had nothing officially back on paper. So. I do want to say again, I want to thank the chief and his crew for what they did. I dropped by this afternoon and helped out a little bit, and they did a remarkable job of pulling those windows and window frames out. Absolutely remarkable.
You're welcome.
Saved us a lot of money.
Work comp proposals, Jamie.
I reviewed the work comp proposals, and if you will flip to right page here, page 20 is the comparison. We've used the same work comp proposal, request for proposal several years in a row, and we've always gotten all the information. This year, what you see on page 20 is the information we received as far as the details from IBG for the MEM rate. So all they gave us was the rate per $100. And it didn't give us any information as to how we get from 128,000 down to the 97,000 that they bid. So my opinion is, to be fair to everyone, that we should probably reject all our bids and rebid it. I've updated the proposal, and that is further back here in your packet. It starts on page 31, just to clarify that we need all of the information. So I updated it to get 6 copies of the bid. And then if you guys decide to rebid this, we'll have them due March 23rd at 2, and then we'll open those in the administrative offices at 2 o'clock on the 23rd. There's a couple board members can attend to do that. And then I also put in on number 6 that the proposal should contain all rates per $100 of remuneration, in addition to detailing any discounts, experience modifier adjustments, and additional cost associated to reach the total cost provided.
Which is the item that threw it off to begin with.
Yes. And then I also updated on page 34 for the union contract that was just put in place for the increase in wages. So the estimated wages have increased. Any questions on any of that?
Questions on Jamie's proposal to check the bids and rebid it.
Mr. Chairman, I guess the thought going through my mind is that we solicited bids, we received bids, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we got 2 bids, right? And now both parties know what the other bid was, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be. That's the part that I'm just thinking about, that, is one party going to use some of the figures from the other that they didn't think about, and, that's I don't know how to control that. If the current bids we have are not what we want, well, then I guess we got to rebid it. But that's my concern about just rebidding something about, now the competition, not us, but 2 bidders, they know what each one offer. And so, is there let's say I'll just fudge a little bit on this one here and come down on this, or I have to go up over here, or, so that's my concern.
Yeah, I'd like to understand better the unfairness. Like you said, it would be unfair. I don't understand where that comes from. And is there a risk of this resulting in the lower bid being higher?
Yeah, that's a possibility too.
Most likely will be.
Well, the information to get to the amount it's going to cost us wasn't all there. So I couldn't tell how you got from the rate per 100 to 7,000.
Nothing in the bid that tells us how they got there. If you take the multiplier, which is the figure that they multiply by our financial position, the MEM rate, they provided us that, multiplied it out times the same factor the same other company used, and they came up with a figure that did not come out in my calculator. So, and they did not explain it. So in essence, the low bid is not to bid spec, is my understanding.
It met the bid specs. It's just that we don't have all the information for me to recalculate higher wages.
So, I mean, that's,
Yes.
Why don't we ask them to clarify that instead of just kicking it out? Because I feel like you'll be now, it's about $50,000 savings. I remember right, I feel like we'll be up at that 50,000.
I don't want to kick it out. Don't mean that way. The problem is they bid it incorrectly, and we witnessed the other bidder saying, hey, whoa, this isn't, industry-wide. I mean, we could tell his uncertainty, okay? And in the fairness to him, yes, it should be a fair opportunity for him to include the same discounts, which we didn't ask for in the bid.
Well,
But the other company gave them.
well, Mike Keith did provide all of that information. They provided the amount per $100 remuneration plus all the discounts and additional charges in their bid. So
Still think we should ask some clarification a little more.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that recommendation, since I kind of brought this up, but I would agree with that, and I'd like to have that explanation in writing too. I mean, I appreciate, Mrs. Ubering reaching out to them, but, so that we can properly analyze it, I think it ought to be in writing to us too.
Ms. Lubring, what's your recommendation in the position we're in with these folks?
well, I would love to accept the low bid. The information was not included in the bid. So if you guys want to include when it wasn't included in the bid, then we can do that.
We can't accept it without being explained.
Yeah, my whole thing was it just wasn't included in the bid. And I know there was questions about stuff in previous bids not being included. So I just wanted to make sure we were all understanding that information wasn't included. I think we lost sound.
No, you're good.
Oh, everybody's just silent. Okay.
I think you have 6 board members in the same position you're in, Jamie. You don't understand what the best course of action to do and to be fair to all parties.
Yeah, I mean, I did request the information, but it wasn't included in the bid. So I just didn't know what to do with that information. Because if we're going to let IBG give us additional information, then are we going to let Mike Keith give us additional information? I'm just trying to be fair.
I think we should, because I feel like we're going to end up with a higher number. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, these bids don't expire until April 1st when.
I believe since they both attempted to put a bid out, we're giving both a chance to clarify their bids. It's only fair. If Mike Keith comes up with better information.
So be it.
Yeah, so be it.
So,
Okay. Sounds good. I will get that information.
Next item on the agenda is the Robert School of Order and Sunshine Law.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you allowing me to put that in the board, for allowing me to put this on the agenda. This is how I remember things happening at our last board meeting. we reviewed and approved the agenda. Everybody was in favor of that. We took care of all the business in the open meeting section of that. And then we voted to go into closed session. There wasn't a vote taken in closed session. But then when we came back into open session, there was a motion made to amend the open meeting agenda to add labor negotiations to the announcement piece. And announcements are, I mean, I just take it for what it is, and we've kind of used that before of, you know, this activity is going on or something like that, but, you know, a major thing like labor negotiations. And I guess, you know, when, as soon as we went back into the open meeting, all of a sudden we had union reps here that weren't a part of the previous open meeting session. And it was as if they kind of knew all of this was going to happen. And so why we didn't put it on the agenda to begin with, it just threw me for a curve. And then when there was a motion made to approve the union labor agreement. It was a motion, it was second, and a vote was called for without a discussion. And so I was caught on my heels because I thought that we probably should have some discussion on that prior to actually taking the vote. So whether that falls into our adopted Robert Rules of Order that we accepted as a board policy a year or so ago, or whether that falls into sunshine law issue of, and you might have noticed that in the newspaper that the news piece talked about everything that we did in the open session prior to the closed session. And nothing was said about the open session after we came back in. And that's probably because we were in closed session for so long, and normally under announcements, which was the approved agenda, we don't talk about anything of any major significance. And I think the very first union labor agreement is kind of a major thing. And then to follow up with that, I didn't see where we posted this union labor agreement anywhere. So have we made that available to the public? And if so, how have we done that? And was it done in a timely fashion? So I'm not differentiating, and I apologize for that, of what might be Robert Rules of Order, or what might be sunshine law deals, but I think we did things a little bit too hastily then, and I don't think it was right. So that's my discussion, and I will.
As far as posting that agreement, they had to agree on it after we did, and they did, and just within the last couple of days, I'd signed the agreement after they approved their side of it. So it should be available to be posted now.
I think it's within 72 hours, is that right, Ron?
So I guess the question is it been longer than 72 hours? And that would, if that's the case, then that would fall under sunshine law issue.
I agree that it did seem kind of rushed. And
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Jamie, how long have you and our CFO been working with the labor negotiation attorney on that contract?
As a group with the union and all administration, Eric, Roy, myself, and our labor attorney. I'd have to look back, but it was over a year when we started.
Have you always made yourself and and as far as you know, Eric made himself available to discuss any part of this agreement, as well as the attorneys making themselves totally available to discuss our interest with regard to this labor negotiation contract? Has that always been available to all of us?
Yeah, we're always available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I didn't receive any notification that I could call the lawyer or someone if I had questions about the labor negotiations.
The attorney was present that night at the meeting.
I mean, he was talking about for the last year.
Well, and I understand, Mr. Chairman, all due respect, I mean, there is a huge learning curve when we come here. And since I've been here, I've witnessed board members vote on contracts they never read. And I've seen a lot of quarterbacking after the fact. And Mr. Chairman, I tend to disagree that every single one of us has had a dual opportunity to be part of that whole operation. We gave it to Mr. Dirk to handle. And then all of a sudden, why someone feels it's a big surprise is absolutely a big surprise to me. It's nothing to make absurd accusations about violations of the Sunshine Law. It's just, I just believe it's another part of his grand exit to throw a bomb in the room. So, Mr. Chairman, I ask that if there's no other discussion from your standpoint, that we go to closed session.
You got statements directed to me and not to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. And I guess probably I should say that, again, as I said before, that since these actions of the board were irregular, to say at the minimum, by placing this significant item on the announcement agenda after a long closed session, and without an opportunity to discuss that contract in open session, it wasn't called for. I suggest that the approval of union labor agreement be rescinded.
If I could, Robert's Rule of Order, you have a motion, second, and there's discussion. And we did fail.
We did, but we, in closed session, had quite a lengthy discussion. And we did that, amended the agenda and added that by the guidance of the attorney.
It almost seemed to me like we were trying to hide what we had discussed from the public, as far as maybe our reasons voting for or against it. That it just, that's what it seemed like.
I certainly didn't feel that way about it. I mean, that wasn't the way I took it.
That was the first meeting I ever sat in on anything like this, and it did surprise me. The transition from the closed session to the open session to the voting to the it did seem very sudden and organized in a way that I didn't expect that to be.
Well, me either, but that's the guidance that he gave us. I mean, I would have assumed that we approved that in closed session like other labor things, but obviously that was not appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, I just think we're getting into territory here without attorneys present that I ask that the discussion, this matter, go behind closed doors with our attorney. Seek a recommendation of attorney. This is, again, you know, if we can't trust the advice of an attorney, I don't know who we can trust. So.
I had a point of order, if I might. Mr. Gerke, is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if there was a question. I may have lost some of the audio. My apologies if I did. But there was a question about the union. Well, the PCAD staff showed up after we came into open session. I was contacted and did let them know that we were back into open session, which is an open meeting. Anybody can attend. And frankly, Robert's Rules of Order says that we don't kick people out of the building during a closed session. It's actually the board's responsibility to leave, and that's so they had every right to be there. I don't know if that's the question or how they showed up, but I certainly did contact them to let them know we were back in open session. So if there's a question about that, that would be my answer.
Is it abnormal for that sort of vote to be in closed session or in open session? I'm sorry, I don't know, but.
What kind of vote?
A vote on the contract, yeah.
It was our first.
one.
That's our first one, so it's new to all of us, and I agree, if there's questions with the procedure of how that's done, that attorney needs to be, he's the one that directed to do that, and he needs to answer those questions. And if we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting and the vote.
I guess, if I may, Mr. Chairman, your idea to do that, we would want to make sure that he was not only versed in contracts like this, but also in sunshine law and also the Robert Rule of Order, because all of that intertwined with that. And if we're going to have him available at the next meeting, we probably ought to give him a heads up that that's the basis of our concern, so that he might be some research we need to do on his.
Good enough.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make for certain the attorney gets the minutes verbatim and audio of this particular portion of the meeting, okay?
Since there's no new business, we'll move on to closed session. Pursuant to RSMo 610.021, section 1 and 13.
So moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor, and that'll be roll call.
Brown,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Berkey,
Yes.
Meehan,
Yes.